We're fighting for our dignity, for our citizenship, full citizenship rights now. So you're looking at this really contested terrain, and in the middle of this contested terrain, you have African Americans who refuse to go into their place, who refuse to just stand there and take it, and who refuse to just abide by the old ways because they're like, no, this is a new day.
This program is brought to you by Emory University.
Shortly after Pearl Harbor, it's that day that will live in infamy, December 7th, 1941. Well, in January 1942, when the U.S. is fully into the Second World War, this war against supremacy, this war for democracy, this war for human rights. In Sikeston, Missouri, in January 1942, you have the lynching of Cleo Wright. Now, the way that this began is that Cleo Wright had broke into a white woman's home and attempted to rape her. She fought him off. Great. And then she's yelling, get him, get him, get him. The cops come. The cops are running after Cleo. They catch him. He fights. He slashes one of the police officers. They fight back, they shoot him. He gets about 8 bullet wounds in him. He's almost good and done for. Now the thing is that, but he's still alive. So they try to okay, I guess we got to get him some medical care. So they take him to the hospital. Well, it's a whites only hospital because medical care in the United States in the 1940s is Jim Crowed. And there are no black hospitals in the United States, particularly in the Boot Heel of Missouri. So they take him to the white hospital, they begin to plug him up, but, and put a little gauze here, a little gauze there, but the doctor's very clear. Okay, now he's black. He can't stay here. So we've done the best we can do. So I don't know where you're gonna take him, but he's not staying here overnight. And so they try to find places. They eventually take him back to the jail. But by the time they get him back to the jail, the lynch mob has formed. They are absolutely incensed because when you begin to think about it, this is a black man who has tried to rape a white woman and then has slashed a police officer. I mean, he has violated every last single code in Jim Crow America. Now, you would also think that, okay, now he's in jail. He can go through the criminal justice system if he happens to survive his wounds. But that wasn't enough for the mob. When you hear the statements from the lynch party, they describe, it is time, they've gotten a little uppity. It is time to put them back in their place. And so the lynch mob storms the jail, pulls Cleo Wright out of this jail. And again, this is a man that's got 8 bullet wounds in him. They tie him to the back bumper of a car. Then they take off driving into the black neighborhood. And you can imagine this body riddled with 8 bullets bouncing along the rough roads of Sikeston, Missouri. They stop the car in the black neighborhood near a black church where folks are in there on Sunday morning singing praises to God. They cut Cleo Wright's body loose from that bumper. Somehow he is still alive. They then take 5 gallons worth of gasoline, pour it over him, and light a match. Witnesses describing the roasting carcass wafting through the smell coming into the black church. Black folks looking around going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And Cleo Wright raising his hand to God, begging for mercy, the mercy of death, to take him out of that agony. Now that's bad enough. When the grand jury holds its hearing to figure out whether somebody can be charged for this. I mean, you stormed a jail, You tied a man to the back of a bumper. You drove miles into another neighborhood. Then you deliberately went and got 5 gallons worth of gasoline. And you poured it over him, and then you lit a match. Clearly something has really gone wrong here. The grand jury came back and said, no crime has been committed here because he was already dying. Now, when the NAACP investigated this, what the NAACP said is Cleo Wright and all of the Cleo Wrights before him are indicative of the lack of human rights for African Americans in the United States, the lack of education. They said because what is happening is that when blacks were imported into the boot hill of Missouri to pick cotton, the point was to keep them as barely educated and as impoverished as possible so that they could be a cheap, exploitable labor pool that would have absolutely no rights. And Cleo Wright, in fact, best exemplifies that.
Okay, anybody with anything to promote. I'm talking about your small businesses, whether it's online or brick and mortar. I'm talking about all my nonprofit organizations, all my churches who want to do a little more witnessing and getting more people in the pews. Anybody with anything to promote needs to call Dynasty Television, 314-361-2520. We've removed cost as a barrier for you to advertise. If that was your only excuse, call 314-361-2520. It's time for the Dynasty Dollar Deal. $1 down, 4 30-second commercials that get played in our television shows that air on Charter Channel 198, 500,000 subscribers. Where do they do that? Right here in St. Louis. Dynasty Television, it's the people's media production company.
Hello, my name is Christopher Simpson, CEO of the St. Louis Natural Hair and Black Culture Expo. Our goal is to provide a platform for small community-based businesses to market and sell their products and services. Consumers who are interested in healthy, fashionable natural hair using the best natural hair products and services. Feel free to contact us at stlnaturalhairexpo.com or call us at 314-398-1585. Thank you.
Johnson of J Optical Vision, where we provide affordable, luxury, customized contact lenses and eyewear. Our trained technicians will apply to their optical knowledge to assisting in your design with your unique look. Our one-on-one consultation designed to deliver a great customer service experience in a family-based atmosphere. In addition to our standard services, we assist and partner with families with their incarcerated loved ones and senior citizens in residential homes. Bring your prescription to receive 30% off of your purchase. All Medicaid and Medicare insurance are welcome. We are located at 3430 McKelvey Road, Suite A, Bridgeton, Missouri, 63044. Our number is 314-274-8484. You also can reach us at www.jopticalvision.net. I'm Felicia with J Optical Vision, and we are polite for your eyesight.
Hi neighbors, I'm Earl Bush with the City of Northwoods, and I'm running for re-election in the 2nd Ward. I'm asking the residents there to re-elect me simply because of my proven experience that I've served on the board and would like to continue serving on some of the new initiatives that I planned for the new year. My first initiative is neighborhood stabilization, where we spend a lot of time working with the different houses in our community and making sure that they're up to par as far as code. My second initiative is our senior citizens in our community, just making sure they have total access to all the different organizations that could be very beneficial to our community, and making sure that our police department has a chance to know each and every last one of our seniors in my ward. Again, residents, I'm Errol Bush, and I'm running for a 2nd Ward Alderman in the City of Northwoods. Definitely looking forward to seeing you at the polls, and tell your neighbors about me as well, that I would like to see them as well at the polls.
This program is brought to you by Emory University.
One of the things that I find absolutely fascinating is how the possibility of what the civil rights movement could have been as a human rights movement. In the 1940s, the NAACP had begun to conceptualize the issue facing black people in America, not as civil rights, the right to vote, the right to a fair trial, the right to a jury of your peers, the right not to be illegally searched and seized, those things that we know as the Bill of Rights, but instead as human rights, the right to education, the right to health care, the right to housing, the right to employment. And the thing that was driving the NAACP to, in fact, look at this was the condition of black America in the 1940s. You know, the massive discrimination, the kinds of public policies that were being put in place that systematically excluded African Americans from the bounty of America. For instance, there was the Social Security Act in the 1930s. We understand Social Security today. But in the 1930s, it was put in place because people had worked so hard, only to have the economic destruction of the Depression throw them out of work with absolutely nothing, barely the clothes on their backs. And these are people who had worked for 30, 40 years. So what happened with the Social Security Act is that you have this powerful, wonderful piece of legislation. And then the Southern Democrats made sure that what was inserted in this legislation to provide the safety net was to in fact exclude two of the major occupations that African Americans held: domestic workers and the agricultural field. So in fact, you had 70% of African Americans excluded from Social Security for decades. This is part of what the NAACP is looking at. What they're also seeing in terms of education, you know, we think about the Brown decision of 1954. But going before that, as the NAACP was looking at the conditions in these poll tax states, such as South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, because the quality of education was so horrific for African Americans, over 50% of adult African Americans over the age of 25 had less than 5 years of formal education. Begin to think about what that means when you've got over half of your adult population having less than 5 years of formal education. Think about how well you're able to navigate in a society, in an economy that is becoming more technologically advanced with 5 years of formal education. This is what the NAACP is looking at. What they're also seeing is that in terms of healthcare, you've got this Jim Crow education system. The American Medical Association is saying that for every 1,500 in the population, you need one doctor. The average for African Americans was 1 for every 3,337. Think about what it takes to be able to go in and see your doctor if you got 1 for every 3,337. In Mississippi, it was 1 for every 18,527. This is what the NAACP is saying. And when they're looking at this, they're saying, you know, the right to vote is important. It is powerful. The right to a fair trial. Given what we've been looking at in terms of the lynchings, in terms of the Southern justice, absolutely. But it's not going to be enough to break centuries of slavery and Jim Crow. We need to have human rights. And one of the vehicles that they began to look at was the founding of the United Nations, which came out of the Second World War, which came out of the atrocities of Nazi Germany, which came out of the atrocities of Japan, that Japan had committed in Asia, in China, in Indonesia, in Korea. So with this framework of human rights, the NAACP decided, particularly after the violence in 1946 that went absolutely unabated against African Americans, particularly black veterans, that they needed to go to the UN, because as the NAACP had tried to talk to state legislatures, as they tried to talk to the White House, as they talked to the Attorney General, everybody was saying there's nothing we can do. And so as you're looking for these levers of power, they breached the citadel of the United Nations and the Commission on Human Rights. And they presented a petition, an appeal to the world. Now this petition was beautifully done. It was led by W.E.B. Du Bois, who was a co-founder of the NAACP, and it began to document the systematic violation of human rights in the United States against African Americans. Now, the Cold War has begun in 1947, and the U.S. looked at this document by the NAACP with its 400,000 dues-paying members, because this is now a big dog. The NAACP has credibility. And they have put top scholars working on this document that they're presenting to the UN. When you read through the State Department papers, the State Department is going, oh my God, what are we going to do? We have got to stop this thing. If the Soviets get a hold of this, the Soviet Union is going to have a field day. It's just going to prove everything that they said. We can swat away some of this other stuff as propaganda. This stuff is so beautifully documented, we can't call this propaganda. Okay, we know it's the truth, but so we've got to figure out a way how to stop the truth from being aired in the UN. We do not want our dirty laundry aired during the Cold War.
Are you under an audit or facing a tax lien or levy? Do you have a tax bill too big to pay? When you have tax problems, Thornton Tax Firm is here to defend you. Do not try to take on the government alone. Accountant Jason M. Thornton has been recognized by the U.S. Department of Treasury for his outstanding contributions as a tax advisor. If you have an individual or business tax problem, or you are simply looking for a professional tax accountant that will be there for you year-round and not just during tax season, Thornton Tax Firm is the answer. We defend individuals, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations. We also offer tax preparation and nonprofit 501c3 filing.
I'm accountant Jason Thornton. Tax problems don't just go away. Get help and take action. Call my office for a free consultation.
Hi, my name is Cortega Collins, and I am the author of To All My Baby Mamas, Single Parenting Without Bitterness.
Hi, I'm Bishop Anthony L. Trice, and I'm here on this morning to endorse this powerful book, To All My Baby Mamas. This book is biblically sound, it's a powerful book, and it's a word in season from the Lord.
I encourage you to go out to Amazon.com and get this book. Your life will be changed, and you will be in a position to go on to bigger and better relationships.
You're stronger than you think.
I'm Miss Chris, and I am the CEO of the Cast Me Out. We are an online luxury lingerie boutique that specializes in relationship enhancement tools. We have seductive sizes of sassy small up to luscious 6X. You can reach us at www.thecastmeout.net, and if you're looking for private services, we do have a mobile service where we customize intimate settings for engaging couples in exploring sexy and fun ways to enhance their relationship. So please check us out. Our phone number is 314-477-5216. www.thecastmeout.net. Thank you.
Greetings, my friends. My name is Kenneth Shepard, and we are
the African Youth Soccer Club.
We represent the St. Louis Soccer Club, formed with one goal: to use discipline and athletics to train and develop our youth to be useful and productive citizens.
We are currently recruiting young soccer players for our free year-round soccer program. We are requesting your generous support to donate dollars and volunteer your time to our cause.
Your assistance will go directly to maintaining our efforts to provide facility equipment, scholarships, team uniforms, and travel fees for tournaments. To get involved, please contact us with the information that's on your screen. Thank you for being a gift of love, and God bless you very much.
One of the ways that they went about trying to stop the NAACP was to use the power of Eleanor Roosevelt, who had incredible cachet. She was the chair of the Commission on Human Rights. She was also a member of the NAACP Board of Directors. As that petition is moving its way through the UN, Eleanor and the State Department pulled that thing back, stomped on it, beat on it, used every Robert's Rules of Order to strangle that thing, bury it in the bowels of the UNs, hoping that it would never see the light of day. Now the Soviets are in there fighting, going, oh no, I think this is a really good thing, and we really need to talk about this. And the US is like, no, we don't. But no, we don't. No, we do. What? Talk about what thing? There's no petition here. When that thing got strangled, part of what then leads to the NAACP moving off of its framework of thinking about the struggle for black equality as a human rights struggle was because this was the Cold War, Eleanor Roosevelt and the State Department said, oh, you must be a communist. Only a communist-dominated organization would have the audacity, the temerity, the nerve to create a document like this and send it to the United Nations. That's a communist stunt. And as you're talking about the right to housing, the right to health care, the right to education, that sounds like a Marxist. You must be Marxist. Now again, this is the Cold War. This is the beginning of the Second Red Scare. This is when being even hinted at that you're a communist means the kiss of death in American society. And the NAACP is going, no, we're not communist. We're just fighting for the human rights of African Americans. I mean, look at this. We have African Americans, over 50%, who have less than 5 years of education. That's a problem. No, the problem is that you went to the United Nations. Well, we tried to, no, the problem is you must be a communist. But the problem is you must be red. Do you want to end up on the Attorney General's list of communist-dominated organizations? And the NAACP was like, oh my God, we have got to figure out a way oh my, what do we do now? And what you begin to see them do is to pull back from human rights as the foundation for black equality in the United States. And this pullback becomes reinforced by the time we get to 1954. There are a whole series of events that happen. One of the final events that happened is this thing called the Bricker Amendment. And the Bricker Amendment was launched by a conservative Republican senator out of Ohio, John Bricker, that was to change the ways that treaties were ratified in the United States. They were particularly going after these UN treaties dealing with human rights. And the way that they were doing it, now, this is almost a basic civic lesson 101. Now, to ratify a treaty takes 2/3 of the Senate. Under the Bricker constitutional amendment, it was going to take 2/3 of the Senate, both houses of Congress, and all 48 state legislatures. Begin to think about the Mississippi State Legislature discussing the Genocide Convention. The Southern Democrats were already clear as they looked at the Genocide Convention, which came out of the Holocaust. They said, oh, this looks like a backdoor method to a federal anti-lynching bill. We've got to stop this. The Southern Democrats were very clear. Senator Walter George out of Georgia said, as I look at these human rights treaties, they just might affect the colored question. Meaning that it was going to change the place of African Americans in American society. That it was in fact going to be freeing. That in fact by providing education, then all of a sudden economic opportunities begin to open up. And as economic opportunities begin to open up, then that laboring that happens in the fields that the South so depended upon, all of a sudden wouldn't be there. This was frightening because it was going to change the balance of power. So what it took to bring down the Bricker Amendment, because it had the necessary 2/3 votes in the Senate to go out into the states for the constitutional amendment to be ratified, is that you got, for one thing, you got massive lobbying by Eisenhower. President Eisenhower is looking up going, man, this looks like the old Articles of Confederation. And we're trying to do this NATO thing. We're trying to be the leader of the free world. And now, all of a sudden, if I have absolutely no power and the states have to ratify everything, we're not going to get anything done. And we're trying to fight the Cold War. And yes, we know that all of this stuff about the right to health care, that's socialism. I have no problem with that. But we already have a process in place to stop that from darkening America's doorstep. Do not pass the Bricker Amendment. Senate looked at him and went, shh, we got work to do. And so when this bill is coming down and they're voting and they're counting their heads, 1,000, and it's like, yes, yes, yes. It looks like they've got their 2/3. And then somebody says, where's Harley? Where's Harley? Where's Harley Kilgore? Democrat out of West Virginia. And they're looking for Harley. They're looking for Harley. Somebody says, shh. They're running all over the building trying to find him. Somebody says, has anybody tried the bar across the street? So they send the Senate pages out trying to find Harley. There he is at the bar across the street in the middle of this landmark historic vote. And he is lit. I mean, he's there, they talk about 3 sheets to the wind. He's about 9 sheets to the wind. I mean, Harley is lit. So one aide gets under this arm, one aide gets under that arm. They kind of drag him back across the street. They open up the Senate doors as they're doing the final count. They look up and they say, oh, we see our esteemed senator from West Virginia. How do you vote? And you hear from the background, nay. Now, nobody knows if that was really Harley because we think he was passed out. So it could have been one of the aides. But the Bricker Amendment went down by 1 drunken vote. But in that debate, it made it very clear that human rights, the right to education, the right to housing, the right to health care, were seen as communistic, foreign to American soil. When the Bricker Amendment is defeated in 1954, the themes that course through it are still there. So when the official civil rights movement begins in 1954 with the Brown decision, and then in 55 with Montgomery, you already have a very narrowed frame in order to fight for black equality. You have the narrowed frame of civil rights and not human rights.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.